Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday night to you. I am excited about tonight. We're going to be hosting a dynamic conversation with an incredible woman. We're going to be hosting a conversation with Charmaine Mischel. And I got to tell you, I'm actually streaming to you all live from South Carolina tonight. So I'm a little, really excited about that. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this dynamic woman. This conversation is going to be amazing because it is for individuals who are aspiring, budding, and emerging designers. So you can really learn some of the insider secrets that are going to help you be a success. And it's just amazing that this young lady just has such a dynamic desire to really empower you. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Then we're going to bring her right on. Fashion designer and industry consultant Charmaine Mischel is paving the way for early stage startup fashion entrepreneurs to make their mark. As CM Design Agency in New York, it is her mission to lift the veil on the traditionally secretive fashion industry so that the BIPOC designers can launch premium capsule collections without making costly and unnecessary mistakes. She brings decades of domestic and international brand expertise to the table, guiding startups step by step along their designer journey. It is my honor to bring before you Charmaine Mischel. Charmaine,
Hey
oh my
there.
gosh, thank you for joining me tonight.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes,
Good
yes,
to
yes,
be
yes.
here.
Oh my goodness. You know what? We're going to talk about some of the, let me go ahead and share so people know about the caliber of person that you're going to be hearing from tonight. I'm going to share my screen and share with you some of the incredible results that she has achieved for people, some of the comments. Let's see if I do this right or not. Can you see that?
I do.
Amazing. Look at this. This young lady says, I had all of these ideas, but once getting into the program, learning the process, what I should be doing and how I should be doing it, the way I am going to handle it is beneficial to me. I'm not going to waste any money. This young lady says, this is Vanity. She says, super in depth, definitely worth the investment. I love being a member of LLB, which is the label launch blueprint. It is a breath of fresh air, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to be plugged in with a community of like-minded individuals. This young lady was like, yeah, she says, I
Mhm.
truly value the work Charmaine puts in to mold me as a designer. This is something intimidating about, there's something intimidating about finding your way in the industry, but Charmaine's guidance helped her fit right into the market. Look at this, absolutely necessary. Taking Charmaine Mischel's label launch blueprint class was single-handedly the best decision I made. Look at this. She says the insider details presented in the course are unparalleled. And then Ashley says priceless tools. Charmaine, this is how you are impacting lives.
Mm.
What what is it that led you to wanting to do this, and why is it such a passion for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, just hearing you talk about the designers, I call them designpreneurs. Just hearing you talk about them reminds me of why I do this. It's because there is such limited access to the
Mhm,
industry, to the core of the industry, and all that is necessary to launch for many who are looking in from the outside. So
mhm,
I it- I do this because it doesn't have to be so far removed from where they are. There is a system. The gatekeeping has to stop, and I just love sharing. I love sharing what I know because I can't take it with me, right?
right.
In the industry, it's been wonderful. I have so much um, under my belt already, and I wanna almost give it all away because it's a lot of information, but it should not be held from people who really are talented and
Mhm,
passionate and just don't have access because of certain circumstances. And there are so many different stories and backgrounds and individuals, but if they're hungry, I'm here for it. So it's my
mhm.
pleasure to share, and just like I said, hearing you talk about my design just made me a little excited. It made me feel like I'm on the right path. So
You
thank
well,
you for mentioning that.
Yeah, well, that's important. And talk about, I know you're humble, but talk about your background a little bit. I mean, I hit on it about the fact that you have the international background, but talk about some of the organizations that you've worked for and how you've been able to feed these young ladies. And I
Hmm.
saw a gentleman on there too who shared what an powerful impact you
Mhm.
made in their lives.
Well, I came up in the industry in the 90s. It was that long ago, decades ago. And I started out as an assistant designer, of course, and then worked my way up to designer level and worked for primarily private label houses, fashion houses that had me designing for a myriad of accounts. Many of my accounts were bridge level and better level. If certainly you are, but some may not yet be familiar with the market levels. But that is a pricey market to cater to. So
Mhm.
I love that because it gave me insight into what is realistic. Not every new designer can make a line that's gonna cater to the mass market, and the fact that I have experience in a market level that they would have to tap into to succeed is
Mhm.
everything.
hmm And so we're gonna, for everybody listening and that comes on, we're gonna touch on some of the things that Charmaine covers in her label launch blueprint. But I'm gonna dive right into it. Let's talk about the sample development process. What would you say one of the key things that people need to have in mind when they're talking about developing a sample?
Okay, oh my goodness. Well,
And
I'll
and
even
what is the estimated cost range too? And I guess it varies just based upon the design that
does.
they're making.
It does. I'll talk about the range for the market level I was just mentioning before. So for something that is of quality that is domestically made. Typically, for one sample, it would range from, and I'm going to give you a wide range because it truly depends on the complexity of the silhouette, the fabrics that are used, the finishing on it. But the range is, I would say, between $600 and $1,000 for one style.
For the sample.
Yeah. So, well, it's more than the sample. In order to get that sample, they have to they have to have the pattern made, they have to have the fabric cut, they have to have all of the materials that are necessary to put that garment together. They're also thinking about the labels and the hang tags and the packaging, like everything that's going to be necessary to finish out that garment and
Let's see.
make it make sense for production. So getting that from start to finish, you're getting something in your hands that you know you can eventually market. Yeah, approximately median range, maybe $800. And it could be less. It could be less than 600, honestly,
Mhm.
depending on how complicated your silhouette is, and it could be more than 1,000 if it's
Right.
if your fabric is more expensive and if your labor is more expensive and your details and your finishing is very high end. It varies. It's tough to put a pin in that. I mean, to nail that down.
Yeah.
It depends.
Oh my God. And one of the things I want to hit on too while somebody's listening to this is I participated in one of Charmaine's sessions and one of the things that I loved is that you talked about that sample and how to price correctly based upon
Mhm.
marking
Oh,
up. So um, I was
yeah.
happy, but I wasn't happy. I said, okay, I definitely need to be a designer because, oh my gosh, the markup is like,
Yeah. That's real, right? And
yeah.
that I don't typically share all of that information so openly, but I began to share it in the master class because when somebody's coming into the industry, they think the pricing is going to be one thing. They think that they're
Mhm.
going to be able. One big thing I hear often from new designers is they want to make something that's affordable, and when they think of affordable, they think of the people that they know and love, and they want them to be able to afford their clothing. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, depending on what you're making and the fabrics you're using, the quality you're putting into it, they're not even their own customer. They have to tap into a customer that appreciates that detail, that styling, that finishing, that quality, and, to make a cheaper garment just doesn't work. If you're gonna do something cheaper, you would have to do probably, production and sampling overseas, and then to do that, you need to have quite a bit of volume. You can't do small, batch production, uh,
Yes.
at a mass market level. It just it's
See, these are the
that
things that
doesn't add up. Yeah,
for someone coming in, aspiring, budding, about to be emerging, these are the conversations that you need to have.
mhm,
This is the information you need. And talking about that production,
yeah.
you mentioned a true pre-production process formula. What is one thing people should keep in mind about that, which you just touched on? But then let's talk about why you call it a true pre-production process.
Well, many of the designers that I encounter are so talented. They can source the fabric, they can lay it out, they can cut it themselves, they can make their own pattern, they can put that thing together, they can make it beautifully from start to finish, right? They can do their own fittings to a degree.
Mhm.
And- But then they cannot actually move into the launch process with what they did in their own studio. So it seems, looking in from the outside, that they are doing all the things necessary to get that thing made and prepare it for production, right? They're doing the pattern, they're making it, they're fitting it, they're perfecting it, and it seems like it's ready for production, right? But if you are actually launching a collection, it has to be replicatable. It has to be duplicatable. So in order for that garment that they made in their studio to ever go to market, it has to go through a process that is production house favorable. Meaning
Mhm.
that pattern that they started with has to actually be redone by the factory because it has to be done by a production it has to be a production ready pattern, and pattern makers in our industry get paid very, very well for a reason, because the patterns that they make can be given to any factory, and they can duplicate that pattern, they can grade that pattern, they can send it through, and everything will be okay. The problem with using somebody's pattern from home is, okay, you can give that to a factory, but once they try to grade that pattern, there are going to be errors that they could not have foreseen. So having a real pre-production uh, process, the true process is actually having that production pattern made, having it sampled at a sample house, having those adjustments done, having the fitting done. Uh,
Mhm.
Sample, one key thing to remember as a new designer is that sample should be made in the median size of your size run. So, for example, if you are, let's just keep it simple, say a designer's designing a small, medium, large collection or style dress, the sample should be made in medium, and that medium size sample is scaled up and scaled down. It's graded up and it's graded down in that pre-production stage.
Wow.
And then so it's a whole process, and then the marker has to be made, and it
Right.
has to be prepped, primed and prepped for production. So it's a little more complicated than it seems when you're doing it all yourself at home. That's all.
Okay, so
Yeah, that was a lot.
but
Yeah.
this is this is the industry, and these are things that people need to know. I mean, I met someone who She lost $50,000 trying to start out.
Mm. Yeah, easy, easy. Designers sometimes come to me. I mean, I've been coaching designers for many years. I just formally packaged all of this and put it into a program. But I've been
Mhm.
coaching up and comings for, gosh, probably almost a decade. They come
Mm,
to me, or in the past, they've come to me after they spend all that money. And they're like, "Please help me," and I help them as much as I can, but they can't recoup what they lost.
no.
Getting those samples made on, Googling who to work with and all that stuff, and stuff coming in not quite like they thought it would.
Yeah.
Ay. So, I probably I went off on a tangent, didn't I? What
No, but this is that $50,000 mark. Just
Yeah,
whew. So
yeah.
let's and again, this conversation is really, for anybody coming on, this conversation is really for someone who's aspiring, budding, moving up to that emerging point in fashion design. You need Charmaine. you know, you let's talk spec sheet and tech pack.
Mhm.
Talk about, for anyone who doesn't know, who's new, what those are and the importance
Yeah,
of those,
sure.
and the role that they play in the design and development.
Yes. Well, we started talking about this sample, but yeah, I'm glad you're touching on this because in order to even have that sample made from that talented designer who's made the sample, they've sketched it, they've made it, they're ready to rock, right? And they're ready to partner now with a sample house. Before actually giving that sample house anything, it's so important to have a tech pack. And I'm not talking about a fully comprehensive, packed out 20-page tech pack. You might need something hefty for production, but for that initial sample, a very basic tech pack is necessary and possible. And it's concerning to me that some factories still say, "Oh, you don't need a tech pack." They still say that some designers don't need a tech pack, but the well, before I go there, let me answer your question. So, what you need for the tech pack is a bill of materials, the what we call a BOM, right? On that bill of materials, you're gonna write down every single thing that is used for that sample, every button, every thread, every fabric, every lining, everything, every interfacing, every interlining. Anything that goes into making that particular sample goes on that BOM. Along with the BOM, you have a tech pack. The tech pack is the sketch of your silhouette, not the fancy one with all the color on it, that you drew yourself. It's a technical, which is nice to have that though in the beginning. But on a tech pack, you need a technical sketch, you need a flat sketch, and that is typically done by a technical designer. However, it's accessible. It's easy, relatively easy to find people to help you with that point. So once you have your sketch, it goes on the tech pack page, and then you have what's called specs, the specifications, which is all the measurements of that garment, and all of the call outs, which are the details. How wide is that hem? What fabric are you using for that cuff? Is it a certain type of finishing along the edge of the inside? Is it clean finished or is it lined? All of that information goes on that tech pack so that it's a visual conversation that that piece of paper is having with the person
Mm,
making it. You don't have to be in the
yeah,
room, they can look at it and know exactly what needs to be made. So when a designer doesn't have a tech pack and they're passionately telling the sample room what they want and they're giving them the fabric, they're like, just make it like this, da, 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 da,
right.
they're gonna be out of luck because when it doesn't come in the way they thought it would, it's not the sample room's problem. It's theirs. So when they have to
Right.
remake that sample, they have to pay for it. However, if they had that basic tech pack and if they kept good notes about all of the particulars and dated the conversation and put all the details, everything they spoke about on there, When that sample comes in, if it doesn't match the tech pack, guess
Mm-hmm.
who's paying for that revision? The
Mm-hmm.
sample houses. So, so important. Have the tech pack. Keep it basic in the beginning, but don't skip that step. You're going to waste a lot of money doing that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Look at the time. I'm looking at the time and I'm like, oh my gosh. We can only hit like, I mean, this is so good. We can only hit like a portion of what they need, but that's a crucial part.
Mm,
So now let's shift a little bit and talk about a well-defined brand strategy. What
mhm.
are some components of a well-defined brand strategy, and why should someone, why is that important?
Yes. Well, in order to launch a collection, in order to do anything, you need a plan, right? You need a plan, a goal, a date, and that strategy. You need to break it down and make it make sense so you get from start to finish. So, in order to launch a collection, first you start with that launch date. It has to be, of course, a realistic launch date. It can't be a 6 months from now. It can't be even a 9 months from now if you're brand new in the industry. Typically, a designer would, if they're starting now, say January 2023, they're launching probably next summer, spring, summer 2024. It
Mm-hmm.
takes that long to do a lot of things, which we're going to get into. But the strategy, you have to start the strategy by knowing your launch date and knowing your go to market plan. Are you going to pre sell this collection, or are you going to order inventory and have it housed at your facility and just put everything on your website, say hello, I'm open, I'm launching, and then distribute it yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that money to pay for production where you can do that upfront? Do you want to take that risk to pay for production to do that upfront? I mean, there's so many questions. So just knowing what your specific goals are from the start is important so that you can map out what that's going to look like for your
Mm-hmm.
brand. And with any brand, whether you are pre-selling or ordering inventory upfront, the strategy starts with, first of all, knowing who you are as a brand, right? And knowing who your customer is and building that relationship. How are you going to get them to know who you are?
Mm-hmm.
That requires some brand messaging and some systems, right? You have to start a lot of components that are on my I have a nice little checklist that designers get access to. There is there are a lot of touch points between just saying you're going to launch and actually launching, and the biggest part of it to me is connecting with the customer so that you
Mm-hmm.
can actually sell those pieces, when you do launch. I hope I answered your question. I feel like I went all over the place.
No, 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 you're fine. Let's talk about that. But you know what? No, let me go back. Because something that people you hit on, I knew
Mhm.
it was gonna happen. I'm looking at the time like, oh my Lord. Talk about that timeline because you hit on the timeline. So what do people need to keep in mind for that timeline?
Okay, so if you are launching a collection, it takes about a year or more, depending on your skill level, your contacts, how much rapport you have with those that you're working with, how much investment you have to work with, and the timeline begins with the end in mind, right? That launch date. And in order to get that customer on board and get them even on your radar, get for you to get on their radar rather, you have to, of course, have what I call an omni-channel strategy where you are in many places at one time. You have to understand who your customer is first and foremost, and that's part of the brand persona. And wherever they are is where you need to start showing up and
Mhm.
building some rapport, nurturing that platform, putting out your launch journey, s- being vulnerable, which is something that so many new designers have, not just new designers, but everybody who is looking this social media thing in the face, they don't want to be the face of anything. It's like, who said I want to be the face of the brand, right? But they have to be out there putting out making it making it real for those looking in from the outside so that they can trust this brand and follow them on the journey, get on their email list, right? You have to start building up really, really n- bulking up that email list so that when you launch, you have a whole customer base that has been following you for all of these months and watching you evolve and watching you get better and watching you understand the industry more, watching you maybe make some different decisions than you thought you were going to make. Just seeing you in real time building this thing and being excited about this brand that you're gonna launch eventually. And when you do launch, those are your first customers, the
Mhm.
people who've been following you. So it starts with making that first connection by showing up on social media.
Mhm. Oh my gosh, I so want to dig in there in the time. Um, in the pre-selling phase,
Mm.
you defined 14 criteria. Now, anybody who hears that, there's no way we can go through those tonight.
Mm.
You gotta be a part of the her group. But we want to hit on it. One of those criteria being the distribution and fulfillment plan, which we've
Mm.
already talked about.
Mm.
What a little just touched on.
A little bit.
What can make the difference between success and failure, and
Mm.
the domino effects, good or bad, about that distribution and fulfillment plan, having a good one?
Oh, well, the distribution and well, okay, let me speak to that first because I like to bring all these other things into the conversation. Okay, but
It's all right. You got it. On our time. Now, go ahead. Take your time.
well, the distribution is basically a question of where is your product going when it's done, and and who is going to then ship it to your customers. So where does it go? Where does it get distributed to once the production is done? And then who is going to fulfill those orders by shipping them to the customers? Many times you can have the factory do that straight from the factory for a fee, naturally, or you can have the goods sent to your facility, to your place, where your studio, and you can package and ship them all yourself. Now, the fulfillment plan, though, is bigger than just shipping things out. And having the customer know what your customer service strategy is or customer service plan is so important so they know what to expect from your brand. So they have to know what the refund, hello, that dirty word, right? The refund policy is, what your shipping timeline looks like, um, all of the things that make a customer comfortable enough to want to invest in your product. So I think the distribution and fulfillment is a little simpler than the plan that you need to have in place to make sure that those customers are happy. The follow-up with if a customer has questions, uh, how do you handle it if they don't want a refund and they want just a replacement because maybe when the package arrived to them, it was damaged. All of that is gonna make a difference on how they talk about your brand going forward. Do you have a plan to deal with customers? Everything about a brand, everything about any business that is doing well in any industry is all about the customer. If you keep your customer front of mind, and you really understand who they are and how to service them, because we're all serving, it is a service, then you're going to be better off.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a little bit of a delay. If anybody has one or two questions, go
Oh,
ahead and drop them in the chat. As we're going to be wrapping up and respecting Charmaine's time. Um, talk about, so just want to tell people, and so many thoughts just ran through my mind. Oh my gosh, so many thoughts. But Charmaine has a book called Fashion Speak 101.
mm,
Talk about that book. Give us a little bit of an overview of that book.
okay. Well, you know what made me want to even put that together. When I still go to industry events and trade shows, there are a lot of things happening right now. There are forecast shows, the trade shows happening in New York City, and they're going to be in other cities, soon as well. But I still to this day walk around those trade shows and I can tell who's brand new, who's green.
Mm,
And um, if even if a designer is new to the industry, they don't have to sound like it. If they just knew the lingo, if they just knew the questions to ask, they have to do is use the language of the industry. And how could you possibly know that language if you didn't come up in it? So
mm,
the fashion speak is just to give some terms. Some of them seem basic, but they're all used repeatedly in the industry, and I do actually have a cheat sheet for fabric shows and all of the trade shows that are helpful for designers. But I put it together basically so that they can just get familiar with some of the terms that are maybe they've never heard of before.
right.
Um, because if you
Go
can
ahead.
sound like you belong, you will get a little more respect than if if you just have no clue. It's just a little stepping stone to help them feel more comfortable, basically.
Mhm. And help their success too. As
Mm.
the scriptures says, study to show thyself approved. So, I have a question that came in, but while I'm going to share this question with you, but I do
Mhm.
want to tell people, give you an opportunity. Charmaine has graciously decided to give away two of the Fashion Speak. Now, I want to tell you,
Oh, yeah.
for anyone who does not win tonight, I hope somebody wins, but anyone who does not win, I want to tell you, we actually have a book gallery now. We've just started a book gallery and we started it with Charmaine's book. So if you go to the website blackfashionworld.org and you go under resources, we have a resources tab now, and you drop down to where it says book gallery, you will see this book, and there will be more coming. But hey, as we start, I can introduce the books to you through conversations like we're doing here, and you can purchase the books so you will know where to go to get books about fashion, about
Mhm.
fashion marketing, about retail, about the culture as well. So those things are also going to be on the book gallery. So I'm really excited about that, to launch it tonight with Charmaine's book. So I'm going to present this question to two people, and
Mhm.
whoever answers will win the book. And while we're waiting, because I know there's a delay with the stream, I'll present the question that came in. If anybody else has a question, go ahead and put it in the chat as well. But the first challenge question is for someone to win a book is, what are the dates for Paris Fashion Week? Okay. So what are the dates for Paris Fashion Week? And then what are the dates for New York Fashion Week? So the first two people to respond with the correct answers will get a book. You can connect with me later. I will work with that with Charmaine to get those books to you.
Now,
So,
can I mention it's a PDF download. It's an ebook.
but you
Just
need it.
oh
A book is a book is a book.
yeah, be at your fingertips. Yes.
Look, there's a lot of information in there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be going through it myself. So
Okay.
okay. So this question came in. It says, Charmaine, can you please repeat trying to replicate designs made from home for pre-production? What
Mm,
the steps, the requirements are needed for
mm.
production? I think that's the end of the question.
Requirements needed for production. Okay, that's the big question. Um, okay, so if you are making your designs at home, uh, you've probably made your own pattern and you've made this sample. It's beautiful, it's looking good, but now you want to make more of it so you can sell to your customers. So what you would do is take your existing pattern. Well, first find some sample houses that cater to, oh, I
I
see
see that.
I see some stuff coming in. First, look for sample houses that first and foremost make the type of sample that you are looking to produce. So if they specialize in dresses and you're making suits, you're not going to work with that sample house. Be real clear about what they specialize in. So once you find the perfect sample house, and you should have a couple, never just have one option, right? Then you take your pattern to the sample house, you take your sample to the sample house, along with your bill of materials, that BOM, which has all of the information about every single component of that style, as well as your basic tech pack. The basic tech pack has that flat sketch plus the specs, which are the measurements of the all of the different angles of the silhouette, plus the call outs, all of the details, the information about the finishing, the information about, where the button goes, how far away from the edge is that button, how far away from each other are the buttons. Every little thing that can be measured should be on that basic tech pack. Okay, and from there, then you find out, well, before you even give it to them, you ask them, what is the lead time? What is the lead time to have this sample made? That's LEAD, lead time. And they will tell you if, typically it's about 2 to 4 weeks. It might be more depending on the time of year, if there are holidays or anything else going on, or fashion week. They get real busy around fashion week. But find out if that works for you, and if it works for you, then proceed. And also, before you partner with a sample house, make sure that you see products they have already made, produced, duplicated for people. Don't just go by word of mouth. You need to see it with your own eyes. And some factories don't like to show too much because they're like, oh, we need to protect the brands that we're working for. But that doesn't matter. They have to have some product in that entire sample house that they could show you, that will give you an idea of the quality you can expect, and make it make sense for you. And also make sure that the price point is where you want it. If you're making a premium product, if you're making something that is of higher quality, you want to partner with the factory that is going to give you that same quality. And also begin with the end in mind with regard to your price point. If you are selling a dress for, oh gosh, I don't have all my breakdown in front of me right now, but Carla, because you've been in a conversation, I like a healthy profit margin. You start with a cost that you can live with for the next 10 years. And of course, the price will go up depending on the fabric cost and what have you. But meaning that if you start your collection selling DTC, direct to customer, you are a brand who has a cost of product. The cost of goods, the COG, is one number. And then from that cost, you're going to have a wholesale price, and then you're going to have a retail price. So your cost you're starting with is going to be sold at retail, direct to customer. You're skipping over wholesale on purpose, because if you grow, if this thing takes off like a rocket, and Saks is like, We want you in our stores. They get the wholesale price, and you
Mhm.
still have room to make a profit. If you start selling everybody at that wholesale price, if you're doing that 50%, oh, I'm just gonna market at 50%, that first of all, don't ever, ever, ever do that. We need to have a conversation about cost, right? It's way more serious than that. But if
Mhm.
you're selling anything at wholesale, you're gonna go out of business. Just don't do it. Mm-mm.
Look, y'all, I'm telling you, I, like she said, I've been in the conversation when Charmaine goes through the pricing, and it,
It's real.
I mean, if people, I don't know, be careful. I'll
Yeah.
just say it like this. I believe, I mean, I'm not a designer, but after I paid attention to what Charmaine was saying about the pricing, I believe, and again, I don't know what people did, but I believe that Charmaine prepared people for COVID.
What? Oh gosh. It was that serious, huh? We have to have these conversations though. And this is part of why I do what I do, because nobody tells the nobody's transparent about what it takes to build a brand, and not just make pretty things, but build a business that's
Build
gonna
a business.
last, that
Yeah,
you can actually make profit from.
yes.
And
And the
and
business is in the numbers.
my gosh. So in order to do that, you start with that
Hmm.
reasonable cost,
She
start.
did an incredible job
Oh,
with
sweet.
price.
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you. So I just want to say, so we got some answers that came in. There were
Oh,
two people that, and there's two questions. There were two people that submitted an answer that was the same for Paris Fashion Week. I'm going to call those two people out and give you another chance because you both came in at the timestamps at 7:37 p.m.
mm,
Paris Fashion Week isn't over. So, Gospel Tea and Jelaine,
let me see.
give you another chance to get that final date. Um, but is it Chrisley? I hope I'm saying correctly. I apologize if I'm not. You nailed New York Fashion Week with February 10th to the 15th. So you are Chrislene P.
Look
I
at
hope I'm
that
saying
now.
your name correctly. So yeah, Gospel Tea. I'm looking at the names, and Jelaine, look at the end date for
Yeah, I'll look at that again.
Paris Fashion Week again, and come through. And while we're going to take these last two questions that are here, and then we're going to wrap up. So this question came for how's the best what's the best approach when securing funding to produce your brand new collection? I'm a new designer. I do not have 100% of the money
Mm,
required for production at my fingertips. Any
okay.
thoughts?
Oh, yes. Typically, if you are starting a brand, my recommendation is to start with some of your own money, because when you invest in it yourself, you take it seriously, right? If you're just borrowing the money from friends and family, that's wonderful, but you gotta feel this thing, because it's real, right? And your own money is gonna ground you and help you to, do all that it takes to make it succeed. So whatever that is, whatever you have to put into your own brand, start there. Once you do that, your friends and your family will see how serious you are, and then maybe you can ask them to invest in this thing that you're building, right? So I would start there. Self-funding and friends and family are two of the most common ways to fund your collection for many, for most. Uh, Other than that, you could do crowdfunding. You could run a Kickstarter campaign where you put out this brand concept and appeal to everybody you know, and even strangers, to have them, invest in your launch, your upcoming launch. It's going to take some more time, longer time frame to get that done, and it's more complex than it sounds, actually. But that is an option. There is, you can One thing I do not recommend, but of course it's an option, is a loan. I would never take a loan. I self-funded my own collection 20 years ago. I started, it was that long. And I bootstrapped that thing. There were times when I felt like, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to have a loan right now? And I stopped myself every time. And 20 years later, I'm glad I did, because it would have sucked out it would have just sucked money right back out of the business. So, if you need to launch lean, right? Prove the concept. And if this thing takes off after your first launch, then maybe you can appeal to investors. Maybe you can appeal to those who are looking to invest in small brands that are making some ripples in the market. But first, just start where you are, and if you can't launch, if it's going to take you a little longer to get the money together, I think that's okay. But one other thing to keep in mind is, if you don't have all of the money for production, pre-selling is a beautiful thing. Pre-selling that collection means that you are positioning yourself to launch. Then you launch the brand, take in the orders from customers that now trust your brand because you've nurtured them for all of these months, maybe a year, and that's not an unreasonable amount of time. And then you have the money to pay for production. But in order to sample and do the design development and the pre-production, that requires your own investment. And once you've done that, then you can position it on your website and get that landing page going, so you can get those email subscribers and have people to sell it to.
Amazing. Okay, so we have We have a winner.
Oh,
I'll tell that person the date we were looking for in just a second. When is the next installment of your program being offered?
oh, okay. At the end of February, I am going to open the doors again.
Okay.
The next start date is March 6th, I believe. March
Okay.
6th.
I'm putting in the chat her website that you can learn more about. Um, as we are closing, what I'll announce the winner and then we'll talk about this. So the date that we were looking for the Paris Fashion Week is the 26th.
Yeah.
So that is Jelaine. So we have two winners, Jelaine and Chrisline. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm going to put my name in the chat. Email me your contact information and I will be in touch with you. I'm traveling this week, so give me a second, but I will be in touch with you once I connect with Charmaine on getting the download for you, and I will get that over to you. Anyone else, please visit our website and purchase it and share that information with others, okay? In closing out, food for thought. Charmaine, thank you for this. I know there's so much more, there's no way we could get to it all, but I think
So much.
just seeing the comments, I'm sure that it has definitely helped. So in food for thought, wrapping up, what words of encouragement for aspiring, budding, and emerging designers do you share?
Oh gosh. I think the journey of a designer is so personal. And what I would say is, your journey is going to be your own. And one thing you should never do is compare your designer journey to anybody else's. What they did worked for them. What you are doing is going to work for you if you stay focused. And your origin story, your backstory, that reason, that fire inside of you that's making you want to even launch this collection, that's going to be your strength. So tap into that, get real familiar with the why behind the brand, so that you can build something that is actually going to attract the customers that you want to cater to. And tap into events like this. Oh my goodness. The fact that Carla put this on for you is amazing to me. Thank you, Carla. But the
Mm,
fact that you're here means that you are already tapped into resources that are going to help you to level up. That is so important. Nobody builds a business alone. We
mm,
all need team around us, community around us. And I think you're in the right place already. So just stay
mm,
focused no matter what,
mm.
and don't give up.
Yeah. And know that, as we grow with this organization, prayerfully we will be able to do things where we can sponsor individuals that are selected for programs with Charmaine and other professionals as well. We
Mhm.
are merging, we are growing. Um, as we're growing at the same time, I don't want to hold information back from you just because we might not be ready to sponsor someone at the moment. Yet at the same time, as people see us doing this, and if they want to help us with donations so we
Mhm.
can sponsor people to work with professionals like with Charmaine, we welcome those donations. So tell everybody that you know about this. It will be available on our YouTube channel. I'll have it up on the gallery for the quick link as well, so you can view it again, so you can get information. And thank you everyone for joining. Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Wishing you all success.